What's up, Nerfagene here. I just woke up, maintenance is over, so it's time to do an in-depth overview of what I think of Iris. I'm going to go over her kit, then I'm going to go over PvP, um, how I think she's going to change the meta, how I think she's going to fit in, what units I think she'll go well with. Then we'll go with some PvE, and then I'll give my final thoughts whether you should pull for her, and just kind of an overall summary. Alright, so let's get into it. So first of all, we've got the passive. Of course, once again, the passive is the most important thing. First, she just has Cleanse. Then she has Flop Flop, which was previously known as Icy Shower. It's the one where if you have a buff and then you use an attack, then you CC them for 3 turns, right? And then Summer Blessing, where you have Frost Immunity, and then once it's gone, 50% attack for 9 turns, and that's for your whole team. And then her own unique passive is Wet Fog. Wet Fog removes all barriers the enemy has when the enemy uses barrier once per round. And then it says Mark. When the enemy barrier is removed by the effect of Wet Fog, the defense of all enemies is decreased by 20%, I think, of own maximum health, right? Yes, of own maximum health for 9 turns. So, obviously, she's a first Guardian encounter. Like, that's literally her entire purpose. That's the reason she was made. And she does a really good job of it. Right? So, basically, it says when you use, but they don't use their shield. So, I'm guessing the way it's going to proc is as soon as you attack a first Guardians, it will proc a shield, and then this passive of hers will proc. Alright? And the best thing about this is that it removes the shield and then it gives a debuff to everybody, the entire enemy team. Not only that, but it's 20% for max HP subtracted from their defense. That's insane. I mentioned this in the patch notes, but 20% of her defense subtracted from their defense would be great, right? But 20% of her HP is insane. Because let's see, I think 670 defense is the base defense for most of the Dragon Knight units. It's I think Baelish, Maggie, I think maybe Rara. I mean, not Rara. Anastasia. They all have that as their base defense. And then when it comes to base HP, it's like 3,000, 4,000 is like a good base HP. Normal, not high. So that means you're taking 20% of 3,000 or 4,000 and subtracting that from, 600. And of course, with extra stats and stuff like that, those values will change. But the point is that HP is so much higher than defense. So to be subtracting 20% of your HP from someone's defense is just insane. That's a huge nerf to your defense. So that's just freaking insane. Alright, now let's get to the next one. Her skill 1 now removes all status effects, just like every healer, every support skill in just about the entire game. And then everybody gains 2 mana. Your entire team gains 2 mana. This is a nice skill. I wouldn't say it's a great skill. I think it'll work well with some heroes, but like overall, it's just 2 mana for your entire team. Which I don't know how I feel about. And then her skill 3 is basically the same as before. They just upped it to 525% damage for 3 mana, which is nice. 3 mana for 525% is nice. It'd be cool if there's a burst, but there isn't. It's fine. I think it'd be kind of stupid if she had burst also, because she'd hit really hard with burst. That being said, giving her burst I feel like wouldn't be so bad because she's a light unit, so she doesn't gain mana that easily, aside from her spamming her skill 1. But anyway, so that's the entire kit. So let's get into PvP. Just off the bat, Iris, this is a PvP unit. All right, when I get to PvE, I'll give you my impressions. But basically, she's just a PvP unit. And PvP wise, obviously, a really good counter to First Guardians, but she can also counter Chatty. If people are using Rudley with Garf, counter that. I feel like there's one more barrier unit that I'm missing. But anyway, she'll counter all those units. And I think if you are really hardcore about PvP, like you want to be high rated in PvP and you want to climb, she's going to be a unit that you want to pull. But when it comes to the meta, I don't think she's going to destroy the meta, right? She's not going to break the meta. All of a sudden, you're not going to see people using zero First Guardians or anything like that. She's just going to be another character that fits into the meta and that you're going to want if you want to stay on top or climb in any way. Kind of like FC Annie, right? When FC Annie first came out, right? It's like, oh, here's a way to counter First Guardians, because the only way to really get them is to one-shot them, and FC Annie makes that so easy, right? Makes it so possible. I think obviously Iris does a better job of countering them, but you'll see that like even if you counter them, they're still really good against everything else, right? So it's not like they're going anywhere. She's just going to fit in. Now, I think the hardest decision that some people are going to have to make is those with super meta comps, like FC Illum, FC Anastasia, FC Rara, FC Annie, and FC Bathory, like those 5. If they want to use Iris, right, they have to take someone out. But with that comp, who do you take out? You know? Like FC Rara and FC Bathory, definitely not. FC Anastasia, definitely not. So that leaves FC Illum or FC Annie. And FC Annie provides so much utility. But you could take her out. And then FC Illum, you're literally taking out the tankiest unit in the game to put in Iris. Right? And Iris, although she does counter First Guardians, you're taking out the tankiest unit in the game for Iris, who doesn't have any survivability. That's my biggest concern with Iris, honestly. When it comes to me, I'm going to be taking out my Dagus, who obviously isn't as tanky as FC Illum, but Dagus is pretty dang tanky. I'm going to be taking him out and putting Iris in and trying that out. And my biggest concern is her survivability, right? Because she doesn't have any utility, survivability-wise. She gives mana, she counters barriers, and then she does some damage, but she has 0 survivability when it comes to her kit, which is a bit concerning. But we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to test it out, see how it goes. Good units that I think she'll work with are basically anybody with mana utilization, because she can give your team mana, your entire team mana. And those with mana utilization, they gain an extra mana. They gain a mana every single turn when your team has 10 or more mana. Okay? Which means basically if you use her skill 1, your team's going to have 10 mana. And then those with mana utilization will be getting a passive 1 mana every single turn. On top of that, so then the next round, they'll have a whole bunch of attack. Because your team has so much mana from mana utilization. You should really look at mana utilization if you don't. Like every round in PvP, just look at how much attack you've gotten. It goes up to like 2,500 attack. That's basically doubling your attack almost, depending on your gear. Sometimes it's more than doubling your attack, depending on your gear. And if it's the 3 that I can think of, Bathory, FC Annie, or the new FC Scarlet, if you pulled for her, if it's them, they have mana utilization and they have a burst with a 357% AoE attack. They will one-shot things if you include Iris's debuff, right? So if you proc a shield, then Iris does her debuff, and then basically your AoE units can just one-shot. That's how I see her working. Or that's the best way I see her working. So I'm going to be taking out FC Dagus, and then using Bathory, FC Annie, and Rara. So basically, first round I'm going to conserve mana as much as possible, and then second round I'm just going to AoE bomb them to death, or at least that's the theory. We'll see how it goes. Another unit I think she'll be really good with is Garf, because Garf is a tank that does really good damage. So if you can feed him mana, that's really good. Also, Garf gives 1 mana to the front row, meaning that Iris can use her skill 1 on the first turn every time, no problem. She doesn't need to be attacked or anything. And that's huge, right? Being able to use her skill 1 on the first turn is really big, so I think Garf will be another unit that should be really good with. Alright, so that's it for PvP. I do have to say that I'm going to pull for her, and I'm going to test her out a bunch in PvP, and I'm going to make another video on her. This is an overview, this is like an in-depth overview based on what I see and what I think based on her kit. However, I will pull her, I will use her as much as I can in PvP, and then I'll do an actual review on her, a PvP specific review on her, before the banner's over. So if you're wondering whether or not you should pull for her, like you're kind of on the fence, right? You have the same concern as me that she's going to be squishy, and it's like, yeah, she counters first Guardians, but like I don't know how to fit her into my team comp. I don't know how to take out, or any kind of if you have any kind of doubts, then just wait. Not just me, but you can wait and get the opinions of all the people that are going to pull for her. Right? There's a whole bunch of content creators that'll be making videos, but also people on Discord, people on Reddit. Just wait. You don't have to pull her on the first day. Alright? But anyway, PvE wise, honestly, I think she's completely useless. Every once in a while, there might be a boss fight that's really hard and has a shield and isn't immune to it being stripped. Right? Because the thing is that when it comes to like Upir's Labyrinth, there are a lot of bosses where they're immune to something, right? They're immune to debuffs, they're immune to being stripped, they're immune to something. So there is a chance, if it's a really hard boss, that even if it has a shield, the shield is like the main mechanic of it, if that's what makes it really hard, then it's probably immune to it being stripped, most likely. However, maybe that's not the case. And maybe there are eventually some bosses where she will be able to use her passive, in which case she'll be like, dang, I wish I had Iris if you don't have her. Also, maybe eventually they will come out with some other sort of PvE content where just regular mobs have shields. Like right now, all the special dungeons and stuff, I can't think of any shields that she'd be stripping and using her passive on. So honestly, PvE wise, she's really just a PvP exclusive unit. PvE wise, she's kind of useless. PvE wise, honestly, if you pull for her and you really invest in this Iris, just for PvP, if you ever want to use her PvE wise, I would actually suggest taking her Fate Core off and just using the base Iris, the base hero, and then Unleash Potential, so you can increase her abilities. Because I believe her shield, her skill 1, goes up to like 17% of her HP. So 17% HP shield for your entire team and 1 mana, I think, in my opinion, is better than 2 mana for your entire team. And then when it comes to the skill 2, the damage will be the same. Right? So PvE wise, I would just use regular Iris. Honestly, I think regular Iris is not bad PvE wise if you unleash potential. I think she can work in Dragon and Light Dark Day special dungeons. Especially if you're going to be pulling for this Iris and investing in her, right? She's going to be fully decked out, right? She's going to have a whole bunch of faded gear. So if you're going to invest that much, might as well use her in PvP when you can, where you can. So try using her Light Dark Day, Special Dungeons, and Dragon on Light Dark Day. Alright? So that's it. That's my overview. So not going to destroy the meta, but she's going to fit in the meta, and she's going to be another tool in the box, basically. And eventually, the way PvP should work out, if they manage to balance it whatsoever, is that it'll be a rock, paper, scissors kind of meta, right? It's like this counters this, and then this is strong, but this counters this, etc., etc. And if you don't have Iris, most likely, it's like not having one of your three options, right? It's like you have rock, you have paper, but you don't have scissors because you don't have Iris, kind of thing. So once again, if you are competitive in PvP or thinking about being competitive in PvP, like for example, you're like, I don't have this in this unit yet, so I'm not really trying to push, but once I do, I will, then I suggest pulling for Iris. If you're just fine with Challenger 1, you're like, I got Challenger 1, I get this much as per week, I'm good, I don't really need it anymore, then it's up to you whether you want to pull for it or not. You don't have to. Alright, so that's it. I'm going to end this video now, and then I'm going to make a pulling video. I have, how much I have 12,000 wonders, it says. I'm hoping that I can pull her. I'm kind of regretting those few pulls I did for Dagus, because I really want to pull her. Anyway, please like, comment, subscribe. Emphasis on the subscribe. I will see you next time. Peace.